On July 7th, the Sony Pictures distributed Marvel Studios production Spider-Man Homecoming opens to the public. Indications are it will open huge, and reviews so far have been stellar. I saw the movie last night, so in this video I will give you my spoiler-free review and impressions of the movie, and my take on the future of Spider-Man in the MCU. As always when I do a review, I'll begin with divulging my own hopes and expectations, which may color what I think about the movie, so you can take that into account. A lot of people out there are really excited about the teenage Spider-Man who actually looks like a teenager in high school. I am not among those people. If you've seen the Spider-Man roundtable, you'll remember that my first introduction to Spider-Man was by way of the live-action 1978 series and the David Michelinie run of the comic, at least up until the series' national cancellation over here at the end of 1993. After that, it was the Phantom for me, plus Spider-Man back issues from the Roger Stern run. These stories are what made me a fan of Spider-Man, and they cemented how I perceive him as an adult in his mid to late 20s. I never read any high school era Spider-Man comics until I myself was at university, and by then, that aspect of them didn't speak to me. For all their other virtues, I couldn't relate either the 60s original Stan Lee teenage Peter Parker, or the Ultimate Spider-Man's early 2000s New York high school angst to my own experiences with the Nordic equivalent of high school back in the 90s. In every way possible, it makes perfect sense for Marvel to reintroduce Spider-Man as a teenager, so I can see why they do it. It fits the narrative, and it will get a new generation hooked. I bet the audience will skew younger in this one than other Marvel movies, and that's great news, because they are new audiences who weren't there from the beginning, but who are now likely to stick with this Spider-Man and the MCU for the long haul going forward. But I am personally not too excited about that approach. So, did that affect my enjoyment of the movie? It did a bit, not gonna lie. The teenage actors were all fine, none more so than Tom Holland, who is the best Spider-Man to date, both in costume and as Peter Parker. But outside of Parker, these were not the characters I know. This Liz will never go on to marry Harry Osborn. This Ned Leeds will never be framed for being the Hobgoblin. This Michelle may be mysterious enough, but she is no MJ. This Flash Gordon is the one I was the most worried about prior to seeing the movie, but there was no need, he was actually pretty good. The adults in the cast were excellent. Both Robert Downey Jr. and Jon Favreau were very well utilized, and best of all was Michael Keaton as the Vulture. He brought a lot to the role, and I'm really glad Marvel were able to get him in the end. The scenes with him and Holland were excellent. I just loved the tension between them, and Keaton's subtle acting as his character does some mental calculations at one point in the movie was a highlight. I'm also surprised at which direction they took him in, as parts of his storyline is very similar to another prolific Spider-Man villain. Tonally, the high school aspect of the movie very much so comes across like a John Hughes movie, which given what direction they went for, works pretty well. It took me some time to get into, but once the movie kicked into high gear, I really enjoyed it. Spider-Man Homecoming is in my opinion the best Spider-Man movie ever made. Spider-Man 2 may still be the better film, but this is the better Spider-Man adaptation overall. I'm very excited about the future of Spider-Man in the MCU, as the character is ideally positioned to be the new point-of-view character after the conclusion of Phase 3. If Sony has enough brains to renew the Spider deal with Marvel, that is. My biggest gripe with the movie is actually outside of the movie itself. Namely, the ever-present awareness that all the awesomeness that Spider-Man in the MCU should yield could be denied from us still. Sony could very well pull the rug away from underneath us and yank Spider-Man out of the MCU and into their own shitty, unwanted Sony Marvel villain and spin-off characters universe in just 2 years from now. They made sure to remind me of this by very prominently and in slow motion displaying big-ass Sony logos, both prior to the movie beginning and after the final post-credit scene. This is not simply a matter of being credited as the distributor. which is all they really are. But with Spider-Man exclusive PS4 games and what have you not, Sony are trying to hammer in an association between Sony and Spider-Man in the minds of audiences everywhere. This way, they are likely hoping audiences won't notice that Marvel Studios aren't involved with Sony's planned spin-offs, and if they bungle it with Marvel, with the third Spider-Man Homecoming movie as well. Sony wants you to think all of these movies are part of the MCU, even when they clearly are not. As a fan, I find this immensely frustrating. I'd be all for Sony making spin-off movies, but not the ones they are making, and only if Marvel Studios at the very least give them notes on how the movies should be done. As it is, they are about to ruin not just Venom, but Carnage 2 in one movie. How? I'll get back to in the Spider-Man Homecoming roundtable discussion, which is coming before you know it. Over the last few weeks, some of you might have noticed some personnel crossover between the Film Buffet podcast and Midnight's Edge. This is not a coincidence. If you haven't checked out the Film Buffet podcast before, then check it out now. Link is in the description. At midnight, Central Time, after the Thursday night previews, Rob, Grant and myself will join Tom and Beyond the Blees from the Film Buffet podcast for a live show to discuss Spider-Man Homecoming and the Sony and Venom drama in the wake of it. Check it out. Till then, let me know your thoughts on Spider-Man Homecoming in the comments.
If you like this video, then please hit that subscribe button. Due to recent changes made by YouTube, we also encourage all of our subscribers, both new and old, to please hit that bell icon next to the subscribe button as well, so you will be notified when new videos are uploaded. Be sure to check back for news and analysis of the happenings and corporate politics behind the scenes of your favorite genre movies, as well as explorations of your favorite characters and their backgrounds and context here at Midnight's Edge.